The Romans have left, the Saxons have come, but north of Hadrian's wall lives a people strong in myth and magic, though their lands are small. A monster in the loch, and prophecy Merlin's grave will be found. In the mountains grew from rocks a grey-haired goddess dropped to the ground. Scatha, warrior queen on the Isle of Skye, trains men to be men. Naive young boys arrive and soldiers go back home again. Such a warrior fought the dragon, so the stories tell, knocked out its teeth, and the Shetlands and the Orkneys mark where they fell. So every little Scottish isle is home to folklore and fairy tale, and to one such island comes a flimsy boat with a ragged sail. To the island of Iona, cemetery of kings in days gone by, comes a man, Columba, forced to wave his Irish home goodbye. Blaming himself for the battlefield where most of his kin lay dead, he who turned his back on Ireland banished himself and fled. Here in the north he finds refuge and peace, forgets his old life in the south, and the gospel of Christ reaches the mainland from Columba's mouth. They flock to him, call him the dove of the church, and by the time he dies, Iona is crowded, a sanctuary for men who are peaceful and wise. The Pict, the Scot and the Saxon plant their farmland next to each other, intermarry, but still clan fights clan, brother against brother. To Iona for sanctuary comes Oswald. Cast down from his throne, he learns of their faith in the gospel of Christ, accepting it as his own. Returning, he plants a cross on the battlefield to end the civil war. No more tribe against tribe, he declares, now it's God we're fighting for. He wins the day, takes back his crown, his men kneel down to the cross. And he calls to Iona for help, that the peace he's won may not be lost. For the Christians have no allegiance or boundary, the church is neutral ground. And he commands his squabbling people to listen, that new brotherhood may be found. Missionaries to the mainland from Iona return in disgrace. These men care more for blood and fire, they say, than for seeking God's face. We stood firm in our faith to conquer for Christ, but the ignorant would not listen. Perhaps, says a young voice, charity and grace is what you were missing. To be questioned by Aidan, a boy, a novice, angers these old men. Perhaps you're Daniel, they say, and you'll be safe in the lion's den. Aidan calls their bluff and sets sail with a boat full of brothers, asking the king for land that belongs to neither one tribe nor the other. The only unclaimed patch of ground is the Isle of Lindisfarne, so here the brotherhood set up camp, with a chapel, a school, and farm. When the devil was cast out of heaven, with a hammer he beat on the door. It flew from his hand and landed on this spot by the Scottish shore. From here the brothers offer teaching both north and south of the wall. And whenever they're paid by the people is given away for the good of all. At first people come to Aidan at the command of Oswald, their lord, but even after he dies in battle they come of their own accord. Aidan shares communion with Hilda of Whitby, and she is baptized, and she continues his work on the mainland long after he dies. A boy named Cuthbert sees the angels take his soul to heaven. When he can fight no more in the wars, he recalls the gift he was given. No other servant of Christ is quite like him in learning or manual labour. He truly gives his heart, his mind, his soul, and his strength to his Saviour. So when his church clashes with Rome, forcing choice of one or the other, he is given the task of uniting his confused and squabbling brothers. On Lindisfarne, his base, he puts in place a rule of life, based on all that both sides have in common, leaving no room for strife. As he travels the mainland, curious people flock to his side, to see if the tales are true that his God gives him animal guides. A horse showed him shelter in a storm, an eagle brought him food, 2 otters dried his feet. These stories lift the people's mood. Wherever he goes, they say the sick become well and waters grow calm. And when he grows too old to walk, he returns to the Isles of Farne, spending his last days in prayer and his sanctuary just off the shore. And to this day the pilgrims come, for his like was not seen before.